Welcome back, YouTube. Today we're going to be addressing what I believe is the elephant in the room when it comes to Dogecoin, and that's inflation. Most of the arguments that I see are people saying that, oh, it can't yield a decent return, or it's going to be pretty much worthless and it can't outpace inflation, which is pretty much ludicrous. But today I'm going to be going over why wealth is built in things like fiat currency, like this dollar or Dogecoin, and how it's stored in things like this silver eagle, gold, or Bitcoin. It's a major differences between these two, but I think it's important that we know why Doge can outpace inflation and the difference between this and Bitcoin and why people keep comparing it for some reason. Just to transition off of the whole rumor that, oh, Doge is going to be worthless, even at its current lower prices, Doge is still up over 3,000% for the year. Second, we're already fighting inflation as it is. If you live in America, you're fighting a growing debt. Like if you can look at the debt per citizen, that thing is growing by the second. We do this on a day-to-day basis anyway, but a lot of the confusion, I believe, is because people keep trying to compare it to like stocks or like Bitcoin, and really the momentum behind Dogecoin is for it to be the people's currency, not to necessarily store value. The S&P 500 has usually like an average return of around 13.5%. The Federal Reserve likes to monitor America's inflation rate at around 2%. What does that mean? That means that if you store your value in something like gold or silver, in the meantime, yeah, it can rise up due to inflation or whether or not there's panic that normally plays a role, or if there's like a war or something like that. That plays a role as far as like in the perception of value. But in 100 years, you're going to have 1 ounce of gold and silver. There's a famous interview with Warren Buffett where he went into more detail with this. But in the meantime, between now and that 100 years, that ounce of silver, gold, or Bitcoin isn't going to do anything for you in between. Because of the amount of people and the transferability and the amount of control that we can have over like fiat currencies, this is typically what we use even on a global basis to generate wealth. Yes, you store wealth in hard assets like real estate and gold and silver, but fiat currencies like the dollar and or Dogecoin is what's going to be used to build wealth. How do you build wealth when there's consistent inflation? Well, pretty much you have to outpace it. And that's pretty much what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Every time we go to work or build a business, we're pretty much working to outpace inflation. If you have $100 and you don't do anything with it and you're not investing it or growing it, yes, you'll still have $100 in the numerical value, but over time that $100 will be able to purchase less. So you have to outpace inflation. So it's something we're already doing anyway. Since we're all technically participating in this game of outpace inflation anyway, why is Dogecoin getting so much pushback as far as with inflation? We can predict what Dogecoin's inflation is going to be. We do not know what the currency of our country's inflation rate is going to be. That's variable. They try and keep it around 2%, but you know, that depends. And there's a number of ways that they can expand the currency and then buy it back from the treasuries themselves. I'm not going to go too far into that in this video, but if we're already participating, why is Doge getting so much pushback? Let's talk about it. In my personal opinion, I think Dogecoin gets a lot of heat because there's a lot of confusion as far as the direction to go with it. I believe there's 3 groups of people that are looking at Dogecoin, talking about it, or are currently investing in it. The first group are the people that are going to treat it like Bitcoin or gold, and what they want is a cap to force like a scarcity value. The second group are going to look at it like stocks, like on the S&P 500, and they feel like, okay, hey, it's going to be worthless because it doesn't do anything. It needs to provide a service or a function or something in order for it to have value. And then there's a third group of people that are pushing for it to simply be a medium of exchange, like a currency, like kind of like what I was talking about earlier as far as with the dollar. That group of people typically understands inflation's role in order to make that possible. When looking at the inflation of Dogecoin, we can look at different inflations of different countries, and I like to compare it to the dollar just simply because I'm in America, but we can look at the role of inflation. But for the most part, the reason governments want inflation is because it forces people to spend more, it drives up the price of real estate, and it pretty much lowers the price of relatively already existing debt. I made a point in a previous video that there's a reason why our economy is tied to real estate and why we pretty much all have to be in debt for this to work. And that's because of the inflation that's pretty much 2% year over year. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but that's just a side note. As I stated earlier, everyone in Dogecoin is not in it for the same reason. Some people would try and treat it like a Bitcoin or like a stock and just pretty much try and use it to ride the wave up or trade it. But the people that are building the community still have the main opportunity to 5x their money. That'll be extremely difficult in Bitcoin, at least in the short term, because to 5x your money now in Bitcoin, you pretty much have to get like around $250,000 per coin. I do believe Bitcoin will see six figures at some point in time, maybe after the blockchain is complete. But for right now, that would be an extremely hard push. With Dogecoin, especially with the rally that it's had over the last 5 years and over the last 3 months, a 5x on money is relatively easy, especially if we can increase utilization. Utilization is going to be the key for Doge to outpace inflation. I'll place a chart here for you to see pretty much like the predicted inflation rate or how it gets lower over time because of the already existing Dogecoin. But Doge getting utilized will pretty much increase its price point from where it is now dramatically. This is why early investors stand a great opportunity to gain. Whether it's Dogecoin or our fiat currency, inflation isn't going to go anywhere. We've been seeing it for even after the Great Depression, and they started taking off and putting back on our dollar, attaching it back to gold and silver. We've been seeing inflation throughout the last 100 years severely. If you don't believe me, you can ask some of your grandparents or some of the older people that you may see around. The dollar, $20, $50, it used to could go a lot further and get a lot more goods. And that's really the trick to inflation. You can't look at it on a dollar per dollar basis. You have to look at it from a goods and services basis. How many goods and services can I pay for with this dollar? And you'll see that roughly the dollar has lost about 98% of its value. It's backed by nothing but the faith of the American people, yet the economy still hasn't crashed. It's still being accepted all over the world. It's the national reserve currency of the world, and it's pretty much losing value at a record pace. Why is this? This is because of increased utilization on a mass scale too. This is the importance of us being in debt and how utilization, even if it's a runaway train and the government's printing money like every day, utilization can keep things in check. I'm not saying Dogecoin will like reach those levels and start like doing government programs and funding and PPP loans and stuff like that. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I just wanted to emphasize on the point that utilization can outpace inflation and pretty much keep things in check. That's the importance of currency and it being fiat in our society. Gold and silver will not allow you to expand the currency like that. That's why you see like in a lot of older civilizations, or even here in America, a lot of our coins used to be like 70% silver and stuff like that, and they started diluting it. And back in like ancient times, they would clip the edges and start mixing in lower quality metals, nickel and stuff like that, because when you get ready to expand the currency, when you have a hard cap, it makes it difficult. It's the biggest issue that I see with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is going to be like crypto's gold. And it doesn't make sense. And I love Elon Musk. I like everything he stands for. But for me, it wouldn't make sense for me to trade my Bitcoin for a Tesla or anything like that, because especially with Bitcoin being a crypto, it swings even more wild than gold. Like if I buy a $50,000 Tesla, for example, and I give you $50,000 in Bitcoin, and the Tesla loses value the second I drive it off the lot, the Bitcoin could be worth $60,000 tomorrow. It wouldn't make financial sense for me to trade you Bitcoin for a Tesla. It only makes sense for me to trade a depreciating asset like a dollar or Dogecoin for a depreciating asset like a car. That makes sense. We as a people have the ability to decide what has value and what doesn't. And that's one of the reasons the currency of America right now is backed by pretty much the faith of the American people and their willingness to trade it. That inflation rate is typically aimed at 2% per year. In a short time frame, Doge's inflation rate is actually going to be less than that of the countries right now. That's one of the reasons why if you're in Dogecoin for the short term and you're looking for an exit, your exit strategy is ultimately going to depend on your time frame. Dogecoin is not going to be any different, especially right now with the low utilization rate, than a Bitcoin or Ethereum. It's going to be extremely vital. A few people own most of Bitcoin, a few people own most of Ethereum, and I believe about 50 people control about the price of Doge. If you look at the charts of all these cryptos I just named, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Doge, you'll see that over time, they've had their price points as far as for dumping. Doge is pretty much just getting started, but it's more evident in Ethereum and Bitcoin because we've had based off popularity, and we've had wider injections of money. But you can see when the people that have the majority of the control, when they reach their certain price points and they dump and crash the price, they typically crash, especially Bitcoin, around like 80% after reaching an all-time high. For the people saying that, oh, Doge is going to crash and look at it, it's down 30% or whatnot, that's actually not as bad as typically most cryptos after they reach an all-time high. A reduction of 30% is actually not that bad, because technically speaking, from its all-time high, based off of history, the charts say it should reach, if it were to crash on par, about 8 cents. If you're long-term in Doge, which I believe most people are, the best thing you can do when it's down is accumulate coins and push for utilization. Once the utilization kicks in and once it starts getting traded in higher volumes, the early investors will realize phenomenal gains. Remember just a few months ago, we were all crazy for investing in Dogecoin. We're not supposed to see the numbers. We were never supposed to see the numbers that we have seen and that we're currently seeing now. I want everyone to remember that. This is what, not just people and small investors, this is what the experts said. This was crazy what we're seeing right now. The people have control. And don't get me wrong, in order for Doge to work, Doge must increase its utilization over time. But with that increased utilization, the early investors, the people that are getting in now, the people that are already in, they're obviously in the green already, they will be rewarded handsomely. The numbers don't lie and history doesn't lie. 5 to 10 years from now, or even on a shorter time frame, the prices that we're seeing now can be dramatically different. Like I know people now are pushing for like Amazon or even like a PayPal or even like Walmart.com. Any of these large increases in utilization can change the price of Doge overnight. Everything goes slow until it doesn't. That's just like the last few weeks that we've seen with Dogecoin. Everything is very slow and then boom. And so you really have to pretty much be in position before that, that takeoff or that shot to the moon. Over time, the greatest thing, the biggest potential for you to grow is going to be the amount of coins you have, because over a long period of time, the amount of coins you have will matter more than the price that you got them at. Think about the people that were, when Bitcoin went to like 10 or 11 and they were like, oh my God, it's so high, I'm gonna wait for it to crash down. And then there's people that, accumulated the entire time. When you accumulate things and you have if you believe it has a higher potential or we're gonna see higher gains than where you are now, yeah, your cost average may go up, but over time, it's going to matter more how many coins you actually have than that particular price point or you trying to time the market. If you haven't yet, please watch my previous video, What If You Hold Doge? I pretty much go into a little deeper as far as into markets and analytics as far as for holding assets over time. I'll place a link as far as in the description if I don't put a card in the video right now. I hope this video helps. The key is utilization. That's how you beat and grow with inflation. We're all currently doing it anyway. So we know that the industries and the type of markets that we have to go after to increase utilization. I also want to thank everyone for the growth that I've been seeing lately. We've blew past the 5,000 subscriber goal I had by July. So I'm setting a new goal. I'm going to shoot for 10K by July. So if you found any value in this video, please consider subscribing. If you have diamond hands, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's continue to converse and keep building together. I believe as a community, we can get a lot done. Also, I'm doing a giveaway as well for meeting my 5,000 subscriber goal. So it's either going to be Dogecoin or pretty much I'll send you Cash App or gold or silver like the ounce I had earlier in the video. That's in the community section, so please go vote. I hope you found value in this video. Thank you, and until next time.